Okay, this video is on the metric system, and the metric system is a way of measuring things like we do with the customary system. In the customary system, we use feet and pounds, for example, if we want to measure our weight, if we want to measure the length of a car, and so forth. But in the metric system, we use different types of names, which I'll go over. Now, it's also called the International System of Units. It's used internationally all over the world. Only 3 countries don't use the metric system. The United States doesn't use the metric system. Liberia and Burma don't use the metric system. But the rest of the world does. So it's called SI also, and that's just a French term. It just means System International. So here are some of the things we'll measure. We'll measure length. And when we measure length, we use meters. Okay, and when we want to measure weight, we use grams. And when we want to measure capacity, we use liters. So these are the measurements we'll measure. Also, we can measure time. And in time, the metric system is the same as our customary system. We always use hours and seconds. So we'll just concentrate on these 3. So we have some prefixes. And here's some prefixes: milli, centi, and deci. But there's many more. So here are they in order. And of course, there's always more, which we can talk about. Now, let's just use meter. Meter is when we use length. This could be millimeter, milliliter, and it can also be milligram. Right? And there is something smaller than millimeter. There is the micrometer, and there's the nanometer, and there's even a picometer, but we're not going to talk about those in 5th grade. And there's things greater than the kilometer or kilometer. There's a megameter, there's a gigameter, and there's a terameter. And you may be familiar with those prefixes in technology. So we have a millimeter, centimeter, decimeter, and meter is the base unit. Now again, meter could be liter and gram. We're just using meters right now. So again, just to review, we have millimeter, but it could also be milliliter and milligram, centimeter, centigram, centiliter, and so forth. So these are the prefixes. And with the metric system, it's all based on powers of 10. And we went over powers of 10 before. It's just using tens, right, when we use place value. So we have, for example, with the meter, let's use the meter as the base unit. Look at millimeter. How far away is it from meter? We'll just count. It's 1, 2, 3 away. And remember when we did place value, 3 away is 10 to the 3rd power, right? So 10 to the 3rd power is 1,000. So there's 1,000 millimeters. Put 1,000 here. There's 1,000 millimeters in a meter, right? So what we can do, again, just count. There's 1, 2, 3 away. That's 10 to the 3rd power, 1,000. What about a millimeter to a centimeter? Millimeter to a centimeter, it's only 1 away. So that would be 10. Millimeter to a decimeter is 2 away. So that would be 100. Well, let's just use it from millimeter to meter, centimeter to meter. Centimeter to meter is 2 away. 1, 2. So that means 10 to the 2nd power, or 100. There's 100 centimeters in a meter. How many decimeters do you think is in a meter? How far away is decimeter to meter? It's only 1 away. So that's 10, right? So 1,000 millimeters is 1 meter. And a meter looks like a yard. You've seen yardsticks before. So you know a millimeter must be really small if there's 1,000 of them in one of these. Okay, now when we look at these units, they're bigger than meter, right? We're going smaller to greater. So a decameter, and this is how we say decameter, it's almost like a decimeter, right? It sounds like a decimeter, it looks like a decimeter, right? We use a capital D instead of a small d when we want to use decameters. Now, when we do it the other way, there's 10 meters in a decameter. There's 100 meters in a hectometer, and there's 1,000 meters in a kilometer. So going the other way, it's the same thing, just in reverse. Again, just count how far away one is to another. For example, millimeter to hectometer. Let's count how far away it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So that's 10 to the 5th power. Right? Think of 10 to the 5th power. Okay, so again, we want to know how many millimeters are in a hectometer. Right? Let's count how far away it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away. So we said before, it's 10 to the 5th power. We always use powers of 10. And remember, the exponent tells us everything. There should be 5 zeros. That's only 4 zeros, right? That's 5 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So 10 to the 5th power is 100,000. There's 100,000 millimeters in 1 hectometer. How many centimeters do you think is in a hectometer? How many centimeters now are in a hectometer? You try. Okay, so again, if you count from centimeters to hectometers, 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, that's 10 to the 4th power. Remember, metric is all based on the powers of 10. And the exponent tells us we should have 4 zeros. 10,000. There's 10,000 centimeters in 1 hectometer. Well, let's look at length. Again, we know we use length when we want to measure how long something is, or how wide something is, or the height of something. We just say length, right? And again, millimeter, centimeter, decimeter, meter, decameter, hectometer, and kilometer or kilometer. See if you can do this. How far or how many decimeters are in a kilometer? How many decimeters are in 1 kilometer? Okay. Did we count the space? 1, 2, 3, 4 away. That's 10 to the 4th power. 10 to the 4th power again, we should have 4 zeros. 10,000. There's 10,000 decimeters in 1 kilometer. Now if we use weight, the same prefixes, but instead we're using grams. Remember, we're using grams now. The gram is the base unit. Milligram, centigram, decigram, gram, decagram, hectogram, kilogram. And it's the same method. So, how many grams are in a decagram? How many grams are in a decagram? Well, it's 1 away. 10 to the 1st power is just 10. There are 10 grams in a decagram. Let's try another one with grams. Centigrams to kilograms. How many centigrams are in a kilogram? Try that. Well, again, we just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 away. There should be 5 zeros. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 100,000. There's 100,000 centigrams in 1 kilogram. Now, the last measurement we'll use is capacity. That's when we want to fill cups or pools. We want to fill our swimming pool. What's the capacity? And we use liters, and you're pretty much familiar with liters. We have milliliter, centiliter, deciliter, liter. That's our base unit now, liter. Decaliter, hectoliter, and kiloliter. So how many milliliters are in a decaliter? Just count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 away. 10 to the 4th power. We should have 4 zeros. 10,000. There are 10,000 milliliters in a decaliter. So what you should do is just memorize the prefixes. Again, there are other prefixes. As I said before, there's a microliter, there's a nanoliter, there's a picoliter, but we're not using them in 5th grade. All right, this is the end of part 1 of the metric system.